So with that said, I'd like to introduce Steve Sherrill for what do you want to talk about? So what do you want to talk about, Steve?
Well, thank you, Jim. Tonight, I want to acknowledge our small business manufacturers who are also presenters here on New Tracks. With Shapeways going bankrupt, it's the small guys who are picking up the slack. I know that they don't do it necessarily for the money. They do it because they enjoy it. So I want to acknowledge Chris Corse, Alan Rogers, and Dennis Brennan. If I missed anybody, I apologize, but I know those three participate and present a lot of segments here on New Tracks. But I also want to acknowledge a new manufacturer, and that is Bob Gelmacher and Carroll Creek Design Corporation. Excuse me, Carroll Creek Design Group. Bob, I know you're on tonight. If you want to tell us a little bit about your group and what you're planning and what you're doing, I will show some products that you've made after you do your talk.
Yeah, okay. And I don't want to make this a sales pitch, it's more of a show and tell than anything. But after I met Steve a couple of years ago, I got interested in trying to make my own rail cars and also to make smaller rail cars. And it's worked out pretty good. And so we got a line of different ON30 12-foot cars that were all 3D printed. And I'm going to switch cameras for just a minute here. And something that we just started working on fairly recently. These are ON18 models. So a Kato drive goes in the base of these things here. And this upper one is a porter that we're working on. And I think we're going to put it together so we have actually three different versions of a cab: an extended cab, a shorter wood cab, and also a steel cab, and then a couple of bunkers that'll go inside. And then these two here are, this one is at least a Shay, and we've started to sell that one. And then this is the porter that has been painted. But this is all work in progress, but it's great fun to do. And contrary to what Steve said, a lot of us are in it to make a little bit of money. So, but anyway, if anybody has any questions about it, I'll be happy to answer it for them.
Well, I'd like to know, how did you decide what to make?
Well, a lot of the early cars, and I don't have any here to show, but a lot of the cars like the flat cars and the 12-foot gondolas or ore cars, I got by looking at your layout and also Steve Fisher's layout. And then at the Harrisburg show, Al Judy's Harrisburg show back in June, a couple of folks came up to us and said, "Can you make this?" And that's when we got started on the Shay, and that's worked out fairly well. And then just an extension of the Shay was the porter. And I'm hoping that over the next couple of years, we can introduce even additional ON18 and ON30 type of products. We're thinking about taking that porter, and because through the software, we can actually scale that up or scale it down any size we like, to take what we have there and scale it up to ON30 size, get a couple of donor mechanisms, and then have that. Getting the donor mechanisms might be the challenge, though. And what
are the mechanisms, Bob?
Well, for the things that you see on the screen there, they are the Kato 11109s. And I was at Steve's place today, and they run just beautifully, only on DC. You could probably put them on DCC, but right now, DC.
If you put me on the camera, I will show what I have.
And Jim, just to answer your question is, one of the ones that I'm considering right now is, I have a Bachmann, I think it's a HO040. And if I can figure out a way to take that mechanism out of that Bachmann and modify some of these bases to accommodate it, that's what I'll use. But whenever you try to sell any of this stuff, you've got to have something that's commonly available. Otherwise, you're
Yeah,
in your time. So on the ON18s, I think we're going to standardize on the Cato 11109s. And matter of fact, those are three of the shades there. And on the ON30s, we're working on that one.
Bob, are you planning on doing any of this in HO? I was showing some of your cars to a friend who's doing a mine in HO, and I said, they're the wrong scale, but this is exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah, that would not be a difficult thing to do, Greg. It's just a matter of changing the scale.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, that's the beauty of all this software is you can change the scale. You could go anywhere from basically Z all the way up to G. And you don't lose any, I'm going to use the word fidelity, you don't lose any kind of detail or anything like that, because all of these models and all the software are based around mathematical formulas that the program takes care of. And the relationship between one part and another doesn't change because the formulas hold across all scales.
Okay, I'll have him get in touch with you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bob, I think one of the things that you'll notice is this is O scale, by the way, okay? This is a true O scale building. So I want you to know that this is O scale, but it runs on N scale track. So if you're an N scaler and you want to try something new, you can get one of these, put it on your N scale track, and who knows, maybe you'll see the light. But what I've done here is this is going to be the beginning of my next micro. And you can see it here. It's actually a cutting board. And I got this at Hobby Lobby. And I had the gift certificate, so it didn't cost me anything per se. And so I've already ordered track to go on here. And this will be one that you can hang up on the wall. So you can see that you'll be able to hang this one up on the wall. And so that's going to be one of my micros when we have our micro meet in January of 25, January 18th. But these run so good. This mechanism is readily available for about $20 on eBay. So if you're on a budget and you want to try something, this would be a good way to go to a larger scale or a different scale. If you've got O scale and you want to have a mining section, you just put one of these little locomotives on there, and there'll probably be some more cars coming out, or just scratch build some dump cars. Black cars are real simple. We use in-scale wheels and wheel sets, trucks. And so we've almost got everything already available to go into this.
Bob, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How hard are these to build?
All the time is taken up in the front end and doing the design work. And I think anybody Earl's online, he'll probably say the same thing, and I'm sure Sherry will sometime, when she gets on with us. It takes time to do the design and get that nailed down. But once you have it done, then you can basically mass produce these things.
If you put me back on the screen again, I'll show you again. There on the back of the packaging is the instructions on how to put it together. So it's about 7 or 8 pieces, and they all snap together really nice. They go together really nice, and they're being that they're separate. It's great to paint them. And
you glue them together or snap them together?
No, you can glue those together, but the drive unit literally snaps into the base. It literally snaps into it. It's designed
into the chassis.
into the chassis. That's correct.
Yeah.
And they run like you would not believe.
That is neat. That is
So
neat.
it's something new, and yeah, I just wanted to show that there are a lot of new small manufacturers out there who are coming through and making stuff that we can use. You know, I would say Chris Course and Alan also, I don't think Dennis is on here tonight, but if you guys would like to comment on your production as far as being small manufacturers, you know, how is it going for you? I think, Alan, you do every scale. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've got? Is Alan still on here?
I'm still with you, and thanks for the invitation. It's kind of funny how I'm sure Chris would agree that a little business like this can take on a life of its own. And I've been private label producing some scale model horse-drawn wagons now for the past couple of months for another outfit, and also marketing them in G scale under my trade name. So the other fellow I'm doing his in O scale, that's Kevin Maycumber, and under his trade name, and then I'm doing mine in G scale. And I'm in the middle right now of developing, this is the O scale version of a potato chip wagon. And they're a lot of fun, and I find I have to send a few parts to the fire pit in the process, but that's just normal because you want to be sure everything fits. But it seems like every new thing that I take on, there's a little bit of a learning curve, and I get to learn a new skill. For instance, for that little wagon, this is the front axle assembly that's going to go underneath the wagon, which people aren't really going to see much of it, but it's a detail that I'll throw in, and it's just part of the fun of building a kit like that. So that's about it for me. Chris is really the master here, so I'll let him talk for a while.
I'm master of nothing. Matter of fact, you just talked about your burn pit. I've got just emptying mine out right now. I wish I could just take it out back and burn it because there's a lot of wood that gets scrapped. But in terms of being a small manufacturer, it's kind of nice, but at the same time, I'm personally in a spot where I've got a lot of things that I need to do, but I also have a lot of other commitments to satisfy at the same time. Like I've got to leave here in a few minutes to go get my 14-year-old. But we've got 3D printing it. We've had to learn how to use. We've got the laser cutter. We've had to learn how to use. And oh yeah, we got to figure out how to put these kits together and come up with new subjects all the time. And the thing is you take a pretty big leap when you put a kit together and put it out there, because I mean there's probably a couple months worth of work behind it, and then the question is, will it sell? And that's then you've got to figure out the marketing aspect of it, which I'm still trying to figure out. I've got bits and pieces of it figured out, but I still don't have the whole thing figured out. I know Alan's probably in the same boat as far as that, and we got to figure out which train shows to go to, and I've gotten a little bit of advice here and there about which shows to go to, which shows not to go to, what places to go to, where not to go. It's kind of there's a huge learning curve, and I've been in business for a little over 5 years, and the curve is still there. So it's always a challenge, and it's always kind of cool because every once in a while you come around third base on a kit and go, this one's going to be a winner, and you're right. Or you come around base, third, and you're getting this kit ready and go, I don't know how this is going to do. So yeah, it's always a challenge.
Do you find it a problem if you had to produce more than one scale?
Um, I tried some ON30 and particularly, with the wood kits, it doesn't scale exactly like it should. Um, the so far I've done a very little bit of the 3D printing in different scales, and that works out. But now I'm trying to get a little bit into N scale, and we'll see how that goes too. But the different scales, they're challenging. Really, the biggest part that I have with switching scales, when I have to when I have a kit that I'm going to redesign or whatever in a different scale than I'm normally used to, because I do 99% of everything in HO. Um, it takes me a few minutes, actually a while, to wrap my brain around what I need to do differently for that scale.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate what you do. You know, Bob Gelmacher,
Yeah.
I got a, how long does it take for you to print an entire Shea kit?
Well, I'm going to talk
I
about
know,
I'm going to talk about the porter. And what I found is the parts that I showed before, it takes about 6 hours to print. And there's a lot of lessons, like Chris is saying, that you wind up learning. And I'm on probably the fifth or sixth iteration of that print, and we're pretty close. But that's 30 hours of print, and we still don't have a product that we can actually, put out on the market yet. The other thing that I've found, and especially with some of the earlier things that we did, was that you have this feeling that you can basically print anything, and you wind up making a lot of different models, only to find out that when you start to sell those models, you have such an inventory problem because you have so many parts that you got to worry about. It becomes overpowering. So one of the things that we're doing now and preparing for the Pittsburgh narrow gauge is basically standardizing on a lot of things, so that the bases that we're using, the relationship of uh, uh, the couplers to the trucks and how they all go together, that I've tried to standardize all of that so that I don't have to worry about lots and lots of different parts. And that seems like it's really helping. But again, what Chris was saying, it almost becomes a full-time job. And just preparing for the Pittsburgh show, it's just hours and hours and hours, and you do the same thing over and over and over again. So if you got to decide whether you want to be in the business or not. And we're very small right now, and we'll have to work and think our way through that over the next year or so.
How many lasers do you have printing?
How many what?
How many printers do you have working?
I've got two filament printers right now, and I'm using the Prussias, which are really good printers. And then I've got two resin printers up and running, and I got a third one that's in the box that's ready to go online. So
Okay.
once I get that, then if I print these porters, 3 porters every 6 hours.
Can you print more than one at a time?
It depends on what I'm printing. For instance, when I was printing the Shea, I was printing the body of the Shea, and I could get 4 of those on a plate. So I was just doing that. So I was just printing the Shea itself with maybe the stacks. The bases were on a separate plate and being printed. And there I could get 4 of those done probably in about 3.5 hours. So it really depends on what we're printing.
Okay. So you've got other things in the works, huh? Other ideas?
Well, we're gonna see where this goes. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're hoping to have that porter finished by Pittsburgh.
Wow. I like the cab on it. I think it looks nice. Really. Alan, do you have anything that any more you want to add? You make the wheels for those wagons, Alan?
I was just sitting here thinking, I wish I had said something about 3D printing the wheels because, yes, indeed, I do. So this is an O scale, one of the wheels I put in my wagon kits, and it's made on one of my resin printers.
Mhm.
So I currently have two resin printers. I'll go ahead and show this again. I currently have two resin printers, and that's about it. I want to segue into filament. I just haven't done it yet.
So where do we
Alan,
get the,
Alan, I highly recommend the Prussias. They're a little more expensive, but they are really good machines.
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Now, where do we get the horses for that wagon?
Well, Sherry makes the horses, and I was just communicating with her today about collaborating on putting my wagons with her horses. So we'll see where that goes.
This group can produce a lot of stuff. That's great. Wow.
Yeah, you bet. There's a
These
lot of
la-
talent under our roof.
Yeah, these laser printers are just, unbelievable. Unbelievable. What you can do with this stuff.
Steve, I've got a question for Alan and Bob with their resin printers. When you guys do something multiple up, like Bob, you said you could do 4 of the shays. Does that take the same amount of time as printing one, or 4 times as much time as printing one, or somewhere in between?
On the resins, it's as many as you can get on the plate takes all the same amount of time. So if I
Wow.
printed one, it would take 3 or 4 hours. If I printed 5 or 6, it'll take the same 3 or 4 hours.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You run into idiosyncrasies though. I was trying to use my Saturn, which is one of the Elegoo printers I've got, and it's got a bigger building area. And I thought, well, great, I can print more of these wagon wheels at a time than with the Mars, which is smaller. But the problem was the Saturn did a lousy job on the same file, and I couldn't use it for that. So I have to use the Mars for these wagon wheels, and I just do a lot more prints in the process, but they turn out better.
So
Alan, I'm using the Elegoo Saturns also, and I love them. I've got 2 of the well, no, I got 3 of the Saturn 3 Ultras, and I mean I get a disaster every once in a while, but for the most part, I've been very pleased with those printers.
Well, I use the Saturn for other stuff, and I like that printer very much. But this particular thing, I had to go to the Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's very interesting, you guys. What you're doing and what you're doing for us. I just want to acknowledge and tell you for me.
Thank you.
Keep it coming. Keep it
Absolutely.
coming. All right, Jim, I guess that's all you want to talk about tonight.